Eric Shawn in New York. Eric, thank you. Joining me now, Mark Levine, host of The Mark Levine Show and host of Life, Liberty, and Levine here on Fox News Channel. Mark, good evening. Listen, I want to start as a constitutional lawyer. What do you do with this?
Well, what you don't do is keep it in the gulag that is the New York courts. What you don't do is just hope Mershon will come to his senses. That's not what a good constitutional lawyer does. For the American people, we have what's called the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution. That means a district attorney and an acting state elected judge cannot interfere with the United States Constitution or federal law, or for that matter, the functioning of the office of the presidency. Just imagine the mayhem and the chaos that would exist if we allowed 12 to 14,000 district attorneys to do this. Number two, you look for federal jurisdiction, which we have. This whole case was built on a phony federal campaign violation that breathed life into a state law, a misdemeanor that had died, to create a felony. You have Hope Hicks, who was providing information to the court, to the jury, and that would be a violation of the recent Supreme Court ruling immunity case. So there's three federal areas, and then the fourth area, you have the DOJ opinions in 1973 and 2000. They said an indictment hanging over the president. You can substitute that with a sentencing hanging over the president, or the right to appeal hanging over a president while he remains in office would damage the institution of the presidency virtually to the same extent as an actual conviction. Now, what do you do? What you do is you look at Supreme Court precedent. The Supreme Court needs to step in. What happened in Bush versus Gore in 2000? The Bush lawyer said, we have an out-of-control Florida Supreme Court. They're allowing the counting and counting and counting of ballots until Gore wins. We need to put an end to this. So, to me, President Trump's lawyers, depending on what Mershon does, although I do it now, take this precedent of Bush versus Gore. You have an overwhelming case of a violation of the federal Constitution, federal law, an overwhelming case of a violation of a Supreme Court immunity ruling, an overwhelming case of a violation of the Department of Justice policy for half a century, and say to the Supreme Court, you're the only ones who can help us here. Help our Constitution. We just had an election. Put this thing back in the box. Fix it before it's applied to another president of the United States, and the court will either take it or it won't. And I'm betting the court is sitting there chomping at the bit, waiting for somebody to come to its front door and say, court, will you fix this? Will you tell this Mershon to cut it out and put this back in the box? That's what I would do.
Okay. Mark Levine, as always, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
God bless.